Yesterday, we discussed the first demo session on this UI technologies. I'll revise the session what I discussed yesterday and I'll continue today's session. Here, web UI technologies I'm discussing here. UI is your user interface. So we are going to create a user interactive page with our application. So whenever we enter any URL in the browser, if we enter http://google.com, if we enter google.com, you can see that Google homepage here. You can see that Google homepage here. You can see one text box and you can show you that search option. Once we click on that search button, then we can submit our data to our server page. We can able to submit our data to server page whenever we click on that search button. Here we are clicking on that search button, so by that we can able to search our data from our application. Here we are clicking on the search button, so automatically we can search it and we can submit our data. Here we can able to submit our data. If we are submitting our data, so the data we can submit it to the server page. So that server page we can use like yesterday I showed you 3 different web pages. Facebook.com is a server page of the front end page is interacting with a server page. Server page is your Java PHP page. And Oracle create account URL is the website is using server page as Java page, JSP. So it's a Java page. Here. Next PHP Java.net ASP.net page we use it. W3 schools is one website is example for front end is interacting with the server page, that is ASP.net. Like that we can write it here all different pages. So here what we are doing here, I'm creating a front end page from my side by learning all this, by learning content, some content I'll explain to you. By learning those content I can create my front end page. But that front end page, how it has to interact with a server page, that server page, how it will interact with database, that is totally comes under our MVC architecture. Front end page has to submit our data to server page. Server has to read the data. Server has to read the data and it has to connect to database. That type of interaction of pages we have to create it in our application. Once again. Here, this front end page has to interact with a server page. A server has to interact with database. This type of interaction we call it as MVC architecture. If we interact our page like this, then we call it as MVC architecture. So here we are using database. Databases are Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server. Like this, we can use it all databases. We can use any database to interact our application with the server page. So front end is interacting with a server. Server has to give its response to front end page. That front end page is your Java page. Here, this front end page. Here, whatever front end page is giving that result, so it will give you list of links what all available here. That all list of links it will give for us. So that will be the list of links it is providing here. So here it is one server page. That server page, okay, it's again UI page only. Will get all link 1, link 2, link 3. All the list of links will get as our output. Okay, so for this type of output, we have to use MVC architecture. Model View Controller Architecture, we call it as MVC. In MVC, we use Model View Controller Architecture. Here under this model part, model and controller will comes under server coding. In server coding only, we'll use model part and controller part. Controller and models we usually develop it by server pages, server coding. And this database, we may use any database, depends on our server page. And so generally Oracle people, Java people, we use Oracle as their database. PHP people will use MySQL as their database. .NET, ASP.NET SQL Server is their database. So that way we can create our execution. So now here I'm able to create MVC architecture by learning all these technologies. If you know any one server coding, if you know front end, if you know server coding, if you know database, then only you can create one complete project. Here as of now we are in only front end part. This front end part we can develop it by learning all these topics. Here course content of web UI technologies. Here UI is a human interactive page with the browser. Here I'm creating that human interactive page here. So for creating that human interactive page, we have to learn HTML 4 and 5. Second one is CSS 2 and 3. Third one is JavaScript. Here fourth one is jQuery. Here fifth one is Ajax. Here sixth one is responsive design. Here seventh one is Bootstrap. Here eighth one is Lessons as. Ninth one will be the project. So normally I'll explain these all topics. Project will be the final project of our course. But every day, every Saturday, I'll go with the project session. Monday to Friday, it will be the topic session. Saturday will be the Monday to Friday, it will be topic discussion. Every Saturday, I'll sit for project session. So that way, I'll continue my class. Okay, here I'm going to continue in our course these all topics. Today I'll explain to you how to work, what will be the output if I use only HTML, if I use only CSS, if I use HTML and CSS, if I use JavaScript, if I use jQuery, what will be the output. I'll show you sample examples on each topic. By that you will get and you will understand what is the use of each topic in the real time. So by that it will be helpful to develop that project. Okay, so it will develop it will be easy to develop that real-time application. Real-time application development will be easy if you know each topic. So where to use it, when we use it, that all you can understand if you use these topics in the real time. Here we are in web UI technologies. Under this, here we are in web UI technologies. Under this first topic I'll explain to you. HTML 4 or 5. 4 is the older version. Some tags are removed from there. Some tags are newly added tags we have. HTML 4 is the older version. HTML 5 is the current version. So I'll show you how to work with HTML 4 and 5 and I'll explain to you. So what is HTML? Hypertext markup language. It's a hypertext markup language. We call it as HTML. HTML is nothing but here it's a hypertext markup language, hypertext. So it is completely a browser-based programming. Here completely will develop this type of application is fine. Here complete development of the application. Here complete development of application, we use it. Here we'll develop this type of application. Here we will develop this type of output by here okay markup programming. It's a completely hypertext markup language. Under this we'll use here it's a hypertext markup language. Markup here it is markup here it is a tag based programming. Tag based programming. So it is a tag based programming. Markup programming here it is a tag based programming. Under this completely it is tag based programming. These tags are divided into two types. Two types of tags we have. One is pair tag. Here one is the pair tag. Second one is unpaired tag. Unpaired tag. Two types of tags we have. So why this pair tag? Why this unpaired tag? Why it is tag based programming? So what is this tag? Here markup is nothing but it's a tag. Tag is nothing but it's an instruction to browser. we can give instruction to the browser in the form of tags. These tags are divided into two types. One is paired tag, another one is unpaired tag. Here these paired tags are, here we write the tag name, it will start like this and we'll close the tag name like this. If we write our application like this, then we call it as paired tag. If we develop our output like this, then we call it as paired tag. Here what is unpaired tag? Here unpaired tag, here we write the tag name. Here itself we'll start the tag name and we'll close the tag here itself. Then we call it as unpaired tag. We can write it here paired tags and unpaired tags. Two types of tags we can write it in our application. So that will be like this. Here we are using here paired tag and unpaired tag. We can develop our output like this. Next we'll move on to the, here we are in paired tag and unpaired tag. We can write our output like this. If you are writing any HTML application, you can save with any name, but extension will be .htm, HTML or .htm. So either 3 letters extension or 1 letter extension, we can write it like this. Here any file, even if you don't write any coding here, just one empty file, if you save it, that file also you can here that particular file also you can create it with this HTML. Sorry, if I use HTML, I can easily develop my HTML application. If I save one empty file with .html, that .html file will access that particular coding. Here, if I am creating .html page, the .html page, if I run it with browser, automatically it will give you some coding. Basic structure of HTML coding will be given by the browser. But if you, according to W3 standard, we have to develop our site. So every HTML application start with the doc type is one tag. Here doc type is nothing but it's a document type. Here doc type HTML. HTML is a root tag. Here HTML start, HTML close. Under that we can write it here head to start, head to close. And here itself we can write it here body tag start, body tag close. So what I'm doing here for creation of front-end page, I'm using one topic HTML. In that HTML completely I'll write tag-based programming. Tag is nothing but it's an instruction to the browser. I can give instruction to the browser in the form of tags. These tags are divided into two types. So one is paired tag, another one is unpaired tag. Paired tag, if I write it here under this head section, we can write our script tag, we can write it here script tag, style tag. By all these we can write our CSS code, JavaScript code inside the head section. So we will write CSS code here, we'll write JavaScript code here. So because of this, here JavaScript code we write it here and CSS code we write it here. So because of this, we can execute our program. Here what we are doing here, script tag I'm using here. By that I'm writing here CSS code and JavaScript code here. Because of that I can create my application like this. Here next inside this body tag, here inside this body tag, what we are doing here, h1 to h6 tags we can write it. I'll explain to you what all we can write it under this HTML. I'll explain to you in the HTML topic. Okay. Just 1 second. Yeah, here script tag, body tag, we can write it here. Under this h1, we can write it here h1 to h6 tags. We can use it here to write that heading. h1 tag, if I write it, so it will display that heading. Here, if I write it here h1 tag, it will display that heading for the application. If I write it here h2 tag, another heading. Different font sizes will be different if I use h1 to h6 tag. H1 tag, H2 tag, H3 tag, like that. H1 to H6 tag, we use it here to show that different headings. Next, we'll show you here how to write. One second. Here H1 CSS. We can add a CSS code to our application like this. Here we'll add CSS code. So CSS is nothing but again we are adding some style part. Existing HTML page, we are adding some CSS. For the existing page, we are adding some external CSS code. See here, this is what here CSS. CSS here, it is nothing but it's a cascading style sheet. Here, cascading style sheet. Cascading style sheet. Here it is cascading style sheet. This one we use it here to develop that style part of the application. So completely we'll write here background colors, borders, all we can write it with this CSS. Background colors, borders, all we can able to write it with this CSS. CSS here it is used for creating that background colors, borders, these all we can write it with this CSS. And next we can write it here script tag. Here script tag we use it here to write JavaScript code. Here we'll write cookie creations, all functions, generally we write it. So everything we are adding to our HTML page. Here we'll write all functions. So functionality of web page we can create it with this JavaScript. What functions we can do it here? We can create cookies, we can create validations, we can create local storage, source validation, something we are going to show you here. These are all possible by JavaScript. Using this JavaScript, we can create the functionality of browser. So all functions and all functionality of browser, we can create it with this JavaScript. Next, we'll move on to the here functionality of browser. We can create it with this JavaScript. Next, we'll show you how to work with functionality of browser is by JavaScript. Next, jQuery. What is the use with jQuery? I'll show you later. I'll use VS Code to write that applications. And if you check here, this is GoToMeeting link, GoToTraining link. When I right click and inspect element here, you can see that code what I explained till now. Basic code of HTML you can see here. How attractive websites we can create it, I can show you in this browser. Here documents, see doc type. Here HTML head and body. HTML is a root tag, closing and starting. It's a pair tag. Here it is a head tag. Here it is a body tag. Here you can see here doc type. Doc type, HTML tag, head tag and body tag. In this head tag, if I remove this, just delete this application. Here if I delete that application, see what happened. See, if I don't use CSS for my application, it will be like this. If I don't use the CSS, it will be like this. If I don't use the CSS for my HTML application, it will be like this. This type of output we can show to the user. Here this type of output we can show to the user because of this application. Here because of this coding we can able to show our output like this. Here what I'm doing here, I'm creating CSS code here. That CSS code is used for creating that HTML application. CSS code what we have created, that CSS code is um, uh, that particular CSS code is giving alignment of the web page. So complete alignment of web page we can do it with CSS. And if you are submitting your form, if you are submitting any of the form, that form submissions we can do it with JavaScript. Sorry, if you get any error messages without giving proper entry, if you submit any application form, will get error messages. I'll show you. Here Oracle create account. Here Oracle here create account. Here create account. Okay, here Oracle create account. Under that, see here, just open. Here you can see here email ID. One second. Here this application we can develop it like this. Here email ID, password, like this we can create it. Here this is one application form. Just I'll click on submit button. See, without any data, if I submit it, I'll get that error message. Without any proper data, if I submit it, I'll get this type of error messages. These error messages are because of my submission. Here I'm able to submit my data. If I'm submitting my data, so I'll get that error messages. That error messages is because of this here submission. Here I'm submitting my application form. Here if I submit my application form, I can able to here without any proper data, if you submit it, it will give you error messages. Those are because of JavaScript. Because of JavaScript, we will get this type of error messages. Okay, because of JavaScript, we will get this type of error messages. So this way, you will understand practically what is the use of each topic in our course. Each and every topic of our course, what is the real-time usage, you will understand definitely from my classes. Okay, and here you if you write Facebook, so in that Facebook also you can see that in Facebook create account, you can see that uh, submission without proper entry. If you submit it, you'll get error message. See, I'm creating here sign up. Here sign up. Here sign up. So it will be like this. See, just I'll click on sign up. So by that I'll get this type of error message. Here male, female, custom, like that we'll get that error message. Here this way we'll execute our program. If we are already a customer, so we'll get this type of input option. And if I don't enter proper data, if I submit it, you'll get this type of output. So this way we can execute our program. So what we are doing here, we are creating a Facebook application. Without proper data, if I submit it, I'll definitely get error. Here inspect element. Here inspect element. Under that you can see here that execution. Here it is body tag, HTML tag, it's doc type HTML, head and body tag. So body of HTML page we can write here inside the body tag. If I remove that head tag, that application will be like this. If I don't use the head tag, that output will be like this. If I don't use the head tag, that output will be like this. Okay, this is just because of here without CSS, if you develop your output, it will be like this. So from bottom line here, HTML giving content, CSS giving alignment, JavaScript is giving functionality. Functionality of browser, we can do it with the JavaScript. So without proper data, if you submit it, you will definitely get error message. See, it is refreshing the page. If I submit it, it is refreshing and it is giving that error message. It is back with the CSS. This type of output you will get as the output when we work out with the Facebook application, or I will create account, or training website, anything will get this type of error messages. Okay, so this way I'll show you. Tomorrow class, I'll explain to you what is the use of jQuery and one example of each topic. I'll show you 3 to 4 examples of each topic. I'll explain to you in tomorrow's session what is the use of jQuery, Ajax, responsive design, bootstrap, lessons, as project. Like this, all topics explanation, I'll do it in tomorrow's session. Okay. So as of now, we discussed somewhat about this. So we understood that remaining part of the topic in tomorrow's session. Up to now, if you have any doubt, you can ask regarding today's class, or regarding your career, regarding this UI technology, or regarding any server coding, wherever you stuck up, career doubts, or planning of codes doubts, or installation doubts, anything. If you have it, you can freely ask me. Yes. Yes, Ritika, Priyanka, Nagaraj, Ravindra, Vidya. Yes. Dinesh, Harini. Actually, presently job development, real practical development, first it is in Angular level, Angular or React. So everywhere they are looking for framework development. Server side, Java server side, Spring Boot. PHP server side, Laravel, Zen framework, Cake PHP framework. .NET related framework. In front end, they are looking for Angular, React, Node, Vue.js, like that. They are looking for all JS level developers. Not in this primary level, basic level development is not required for the real-time application development. So we are, who know only CSS, JavaScript, definitely they are not eligible to apply as a front-end development. Yes, any other doubts? Yeah, definitely you will get certification at the end of the course. You can contact with Bhavani ma'am, DURGASOFT organizer. She will tell you how to get course certification after completion of the course. Is there any course for Node.js? Node.js, you can ask Bhavani ma'am, DURGASOFT organizer. She will conduct and organize all the classes. Yeah, React also available in online along with my classes. Once I start JavaScript, that day onwards, you can parallelly start one more class. One other faculty is conducting React classes. Parallelly, you can join there in that React class along with my classes once I start JavaScript. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Harini. Yeah. We'll meet tomorrow for the continuation of session. Today I joined late, but tomorrow I'll definitely on time. I'll continue our class. Till 10 o'clock. I'll start it 9:05, 9:10, like that. Thank you.